We've all heard of young kids dreaming of representing Australia in the green and gold in the mighty swimming pool. Australia has such a rich tradition of Olympic success in the pool. And today's guest grew up dreaming of the green and gold and went on to fulfill that ambition, culminating in an Olympic medal in the London 2012 Olympic Games. So listeners, strap in as we jump into another episode of the Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. All right, guys and girls, we've got a great interview lined up for you on this episode of the Physical Performance Show. On the line, I have Jade Neilsen. I've known Jade through the physio practice for many years, and Jade scaled the heights of what is many junior swimmers' dream, going right through to an Olympic silver medal at the 2012 London Olympic Games. So, Jade, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the Physical Performance Show.
Thank you, Brad. Pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you online. And, Jade, I'm going to start right out of the gates with a tricky question for you. So, what's something that the world would find interesting about Jade Neilsen?
I guess... that's a tough one. I guess I have a long-running history in sport. Well, my family does. My grandfather was the first council lifeguard on the Gold Coast back in the 1920s, and then my uncles Paul and Rick went on to compete at the World Surfing Championships in the early 70s, and Paul came away with a world title. And then from an early age, my family, my dad got us into the nippers at Surf's Paradise. And that's where it all began, in the ocean. And if it wasn't for my family history, I would have never discovered that affinity with water. So it was a surf club beginning, Jade? Yes. Yeah, very good. Well, we'll be coming back to that surf club beginning, but on that, what's something that scares you? What's something that scares Jade Neilsen? I guess right now I'm sort of in a pretty good place. I think the unknown used to freak me out a little bit, especially in sport, just not knowing what you can't control. But now I've sort of learnt to embrace that and step into the things that you don't know about and really try and stretch yourself. So yeah. So do you enjoy that now, Jade? Whereas once before, I imagine you were referring to your sporting career. Yeah. It was, the unknown of. But now in your phase after swimming, do you find that it's something that you've made a bit more peace with? Yeah, definitely. And I find that the things that you're most afraid of is where you can make the biggest gains. They're usually your weak spots. So, and before you know it, they can quickly turn into strength. So it's definitely something I've learnt to embrace past swimming. Excellent. And is there an example you can share with the listeners? I guess just starting my professional career in IT and management consulting. I still don't really know. I'm definitely far from an expert in IT and the corporate world, but sort of just embracing that as just something to delve into and get a great understanding of. I mean, there's a big wide world out there and there's heaps of opportunities available, so it's just another learning point.
Well, Jade, I can understand. IT scares me. So, good on you if it doesn't scare you. I think it scares most people that the world needs people like you, to manage it. So, no, that's great, Jade. And excuse me there, I'm just coming off the back of my little girl's sore throat. But Jade, for the listeners, I obviously at the start there introduced you as an Olympic silver medalist. I don't want to prejudice your answer here, but a question I ask all the guests of the show is, what's your single greatest physical accomplishment? This show's about, people striving or seeking their physical best performance. What's your single greatest physical accomplishment in your swimming career?
For me, obviously the Olympics is a standout, but qualifying for the Olympics was definitely a really challenging time. I didn't have a great preparation for whatever reason, and it's extremely nerve-wracking getting up and knowing this is your only chance in 4 years to be able to qualify to make this team, and it's sort of you've got everything to lose mentality. And unfortunately for me, the stars just weren't aligning. But fortunately, I managed to get myself into a headspace where it was just there was no other option but to make the team and to qualify and to get myself in that mindset and to be able to still produce that I needed is definitely something that I draw a lot of strength from still today.
So Jade, on the preparation, so I definitely want to ask you about the Olympic Games and the success there, but interesting that you would rate the team selection, ahead of it as arguably a bigger achievement. So can you tell us a little bit more about I think you alluded there, the preparation, the stars weren't aligning. What was happening? Can you let us in on what was going on?
Oh, for whatever reason, the times I just weren't being produced in training. So, I mean, day in and day out, when you're training your butt off, really pushing yourself to your limits, and the times just weren't popping up. And swimming is one of those sports where it's black and white, and if the time doesn't, if you don't swim fast enough, then that's it. And unfortunately for me, more often than not, I just wasn't swimming fast enough in training. I was giving it my all. I was doing my best. I was making sure out of the pool as well that I was recovering and eating well, going to the physio and massage, making sure everything was up to scratch, dotting T's and crossing I's. But yeah, for whatever reason, the times just weren't coming up on the board, and it was so frustrating. And it was, for whatever reason, I still don't really know, but I managed to overcome it. And
well, you got in, didn't you?
Yeah.
So, I actually remember, Jade, watching the trials, the Olympic trials. My wife and I, Christina, on vacation at Noosa. And I remember saying, honey, the holiday stops for a few hours. There's a few races here coming up. And I think I recall you swim and what it meant, obviously, with you getting in. Because I think at that point I'd been providing physio for you for maybe, 3 years or 2 years? It was a fair lead up.
About that for a long time.
If not more.
Yeah.
And what was exciting for me, Jade, was as a physio, going through physio school, and even in my teenage years, dreaming of becoming a physio. One of my physio goals was to help someone get an Olympic medal.
Yeah.
And you were the first, so you always have a special place reserved on our wall, Jade. And so Jade, I think we'll come back to your London Olympic Games experience, but let's just take a step back and talk about a little bit more about how you got started in your sport. You mentioned that, if it wasn't for your parents getting you on the beach at Surfers Paradise and the Surfers Paradise Surf Lifesaving Club, you maybe wouldn't have found that affinity for water. So what's the link? Take us through the steps that, led you to, pursuing a professional swimming career.
Yeah, so we grew up in the beach, surfing and all of that. I think Mum and Dad had us swimming before we were 1 year old. They had us in the water straight away, and then very quickly if you're going to be in the ocean swimming and surfing and everything all the time, you have to be strong swimmers. So it got us into lessons and squads down at Miami Pool at Pizzy Park.
Yep.
So I think we did learn to swim lessons at Pizzy Park, and
wow,
and went right through from there to be coached under Dennis for almost 10 years and go to the Olympics with him. But I guess, just gradually moved through the squads and progressed quite slowly. I definitely wasn't one of those kids that was breaking national records or anything like that at a super young age. That all came in my later teenage years. So it was more so just focusing on what I found fun, and that was definitely in the surf. Yep. I really enjoyed competing in surf lifesaving. I loved the challenge of, the conditions are always changing. You never know quite what's going to turn up on the day, and it's very different to pool racing. And I pursued that all the way through high school, as well as with my swimming parallel. And I guess when I finished school in Year 12, I started qualifying for national junior teams with the swimming and got to go overseas a few times that year. Got put on a few different junior national squads as well. And I guess it started to come clearer to me that maybe swimming was something that I should pursue professionally.
At what age was this, Jade, at that point? When was that epiphany? How old were you at that stage?
I was 17.
So this was at 17. Up until that point, you'd been sort of living a dual sporting life of surf club. And was that Iron Woman competition, or was that surf swimming, or was it, what was it?
So the surf lifesaving. So, we did the Iron Woman, swim, board rescue, all of those events. Competed at the Aussies every year from when I was, I think, 13 or so, or 14.
Yeah, wow.
And they were both, I was probably equally good at others, but in terms of international opportunity, surf lifesaving doesn't quite have the same level as what swimming does on a global scale. So, and because at 17 I started getting to go and explore those international opportunities, it sort of just became a no-brainer to keep trying to do that. And there's definitely so much free international travel and things like that, and I got to go to so many different places in the world that I probably would have never gone if I hadn't chosen to pursue swimming, which is something that I'm extremely grateful for.
Yeah, sure. So did you grow up dreaming about Olympic, representation?
Pardon?
Did you grow up, Jade, dreaming about wearing the green and gold for the Australian swim team?
I'm not sure.
Or didn't really start until around that 17 years of age? Yeah,
well, I guess when it sort of became a bit more of a possibility, I definitely thought was something that I could do and started aiming for. But I think prior to that, I always just sort of just took it as it came and focused on being the best athlete I could be, and always wanting to improve on previous competitions and things like that. And I think because I never, it sounds a little bit different from the norm, but I think because I never put those huge expectations on myself from a young age, I was able to just progress and grow and mature into an athlete and have a bit more longevity in the sport compared to getting burnt out, like what unfortunately does happen sometimes.
You saw that happen around you, obviously, going through the swimming junior years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was just crazy. As I said before, I was at 12 or 13. I started competing national age groups in swimming, and I was up there. I would make finals and things, but I wasn't like, I've got to watch out for Jade. And I ended up being the only female in my age group that went on to compete internationally in my events.
Wow,
so,
is that right? That's incredible.
So it's and we have a very strong age group, but people just fall away.
And you think that's some of the pressure that can come from well-meaning parents potentially, and also the athlete themselves. So your lesser expectations, you think, actually served you well?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think if I'd been putting that much pressure on myself at such a young age, I definitely would have gotten demotivated. unmotivated and not wanted to continue, just because for me, I wasn't at that level at that age. And striving for something like that probably would have been, it's like, how will I ever get there when I'm only here? So the fact that it was all just about, working, making sure that I trained hard and ate well and rested and had fun and focused on making friends and enjoying the sport at that age definitely served me later.
Yeah, that's great insight, Jade. Particularly swimming laps. So back when you were competing, Jade, what would your morning routine look like?
My morning. Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, back when you were competing, what would your morning routine look like? So you'd get out of bed. I think you'd be in the water by 5:30 a.m. most days. Yeah,
usually. Yeah, get up at about 4:45 and just roll out of bed, grab.
Literally roll?
Yeah, some days, especially later in the week.
So Friday was roll day, Monday was ab crunch day to go to bed, right? Yep, got it. So you'd roll out of bed. Then what?
I'd usually go and grab, so I'd have all of my shakes and things that I'd prepped the night before. I had an electrolyte drink mixed in with water. I'd grab that, grab my protein shakers that have the protein powder in them, and jump in the car, get to the pool around 5, drink the electrolyte drink, do different shoulder exercises, core switch on exercises for about 20 minutes or so, then 5:30 in the water. Usually train for about 2.5 hours in the morning. Get out, go home, have brekkie, and then shower, get changed and go to the gym or go for a run for about 60 minutes. And then if I come home or go to an appointment, go to the physio, go see you, or grab a massage, or just go to bed, something like that.
So that was your morning routine. So would you normally eat before you trained?
I didn't. For whatever reason, it just didn't work for me. I always felt sick before I swam. If I ate that early, even protein powders didn't really work. I'd always have them after a session.
So Jade, in terms of take us through the Olympic Games experience, London 2012.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. So my coach Dennis Cottrell decided that we would spend 3 weeks in Switzerland on the Swiss and Italian border for 3 weeks, just prepping and getting used to it, sort of getting away from, I guess, the grind that we'd been in for the last few months leading into the Games, and get us just ready to race. And then, so spent 3 weeks there, and then went to Manchester and caught up with the rest of the Australian swim team. And that was awesome. The USA Dream team, the basketball guys, were staying in the same hotel as us, and got to meet Kobe Bryant and LeBron James and all those superstars. That was pretty awesome, getting a taste of that before we'd even gotten to the village.
I reckon. Did you get a few photos?
Yeah. I think one afternoon Kobe came and watched us train, and he was astounded at how well we could all swim and how much training we did right before racing. Obviously, basketballers have a much different type of training to us, and I think that's one of the best things about going to the Olympic Games, was getting to experience what other athletes did and how they trained and how they prepared, because you're in that little bubble in that little swimming bubble for so long, and you don't have any idea how other athletes do it. And so it was really cool getting to meet those guys and hear their stories. And then travelled down to London. Where we were for 3 weeks in the village. Village was definitely by far the best experience of the whole thing. The atmosphere and the energy in that place is just electric. It's so cool. I'd love to be going to Rio this year, but unfortunately my life went in a different direction.
Well, I want to ask you about that too a bit more, Jade. We'll do that towards the end of the interview. But so, what was it like walking into the village for the first time?
Oh,
You said, describe that.
yeah. Oh, just got goosebumps. I mean, when we were in Switzerland, Tommy and I, we were both prepping for our first, Tom Fraser home, sorry, we were both prepping for our first games, and we kept quizzing Dennis at every opportunity to ask him what it's like, and he just said you can't explain it, just be patient and you'll get to experience it and you'll know what I mean by it, and you can't describe it. I remember getting goosebumps and just walking in there, and for the first time it felt really real that I was at the Olympics and I was an Olympian and all of that, and when we went to go pick up our Olympic uniform, that was awesome as well. And first time walking into the food hall, the food hall was a big win as well. That was awesome.
Wow. What was the like the food hall? Was it? How would you describe it? Was it just gigantic with thousands of chairs, or?
Yeah, it was pretty big. It was probably about, it's probably the size of half a football field, maybe a little bit bigger, with just heaps of different food stalls all around the the perimeter of the venue, of the building, and then right in the back right-hand corner there was a big McDonald's and McCafe. And then in the middle of the building they had like British specialty food, but they had all different types, which I didn't really understand. It was kind of pretty similar to what we eat, so it wasn't that.
So you weren't going hungry, Jade?
No, definitely not. It was actually really hard. Obviously, when you first get there and before you've raced, you still have to be diligent with what you're eating and making sure you're looking after yourself, and so you couldn't have too much fun. But then once you race, pressure's off and it's all good. You can sort of eat to your heart's desire. I think I ate so much McDonald's after I finished racing. I don't think
after you finished, Jade.
Yeah, after I finised.
And you haven't eaten it since, is that right?
Oh, probably not.
You've had a big hiatus from it.
Sort of worn. Just the fact that we could go get free McDonald's whenever we wanted, that it was kind of fun.
And then, Jade, fast forwarding to your event, the 4x200m freestyle women's relay. How did that all play out, the relay, the success that you girls had?
Yeah, it was being a part of a relay team is always a lot of fun because it's four of you. You feel like you really are a team, and in an individual sport you don't feel that much. I mean, even the relays are still individual because they're individual legs that you have to race, but there is four of you that get to walk out on pool deck together and get to share the success. And it was, we were all really, we'd all had good preps, I'm pretty sure, and we were all really keen to get the girls through the final and get them in the best position possible, as well as wanting to get a position for that final swim that night. And it was just the most amazing feeling getting to walk out on pool deck and knowing, I think the stadium was packed. I think there was 18,000 people there watching. Great Britain was in our heat as well, so there was a big cheer when we all walked out.
Yep.
And it's just that, I guess, that's what separates the Olympics from other sporting events, other swimming events, I suppose, is you know most of the world's watching. Like, there's millions of people on TV watching, and you've got nothing to lose, I think, when you get to that stage. So for me anyways, I just figured I'm finally here. This is it, and I'm going to have my best shot. Like that. I was nervous, but I wasn't scared or anything like that. I was just excited to be experiencing such an awesome thing.
Yeah, wow. Because you were how old at this stage, Jade? You were...
I just turned 21, so I got to turn 21, I think, my second day in the village or something. It was pretty cool.
That's right. I remember you had your 21st over there. Wow, what an experience, 21-year-old. And then the silver medal, what was it like the first moment you got that in your hands? So I remember you brought it back to Australia and you brought it into the practice, and it was like, wow, it was huge, it was heavy, it was, it was coveted. What was that like? Could you believe it, or what was going through your head?
Not really. I still don't think I can really believe that I've got an Olympic medal. Like, it's just such a bizarre thing.
Where is it, Jade? Where, you don't have to tell all the details because for security. But is it? Do you sleep with it? Does it stay at your family home? Or?
Yeah, Mum and Dad have got it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where they've got it.
Yeah.
They've got it.
Safekeeping for Mum and Dad.
Tucked away.
Tucked away very securely.
Yeah, I think it was awesome to bring that home and get to show everyone that, and because there was so many people that helped me get to that place, like yourself and my parents, friends and coaches. So it was really nice to have something that everyone could enjoy, because it's something everyone loves to see. It's not very often that people do get to see a medal. I remember when Grant Hackett and those senior guys used to come back from the international meets with all of their Olympic and Commonwealth Games medals, and it was just awesome getting to see these, getting to hold them and everything. So I think being able to bring something like that home and everyone being able to experience it was the best part.
Is that right? Even better than the own satisfaction of, wow, this happened for me. It's that being able to share it. Yeah. That's beautiful, Jade. And on the Olympics, obviously this is an Olympic year, 2016 Rio, and you mentioned before I think you said in some ways you wished you were competing. What's that like? Like on a far lesser scale, Jade, I think of some earlier successes I had in triathlon, and then I think, wow, a year's passed already, and then 2 years, and then all of a sudden I look back and it was X amount of years ago.
Yeah.
Is it like that with the Olympic Games? If you're not going back for the successive Olympics, does it feel a little bit like, oh wow, well, I feel like it was just yesterday? What's it like?
A little bit. It is still such a big part of my life, swimming. I mean, it was. I grew up. I mean, I'm only 24, and it was something that I was doing for probably like about 20 years. So
yeah, well, you said one, Jade. You said you got dunked in the surf at one, so you were doing it for 23 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's something that's always been it's just been a part of me for so long. So to be on this new path where I'm not a professional athlete anymore. I'm not an athlete really at all anymore. I'm quite a normal person, and it is bizarre, but it's exciting too to watch the new swimmers coming through, and or some of my friends, and see how well they're doing at the moment. I'm just sort of I'm happy to be a spectator now, I think.
So you've made peace with it overall. I imagine there will be emotions that kind of triggered, but you're happy with where you are.
Yeah, definitely. It hasn't been. I think when I was swimming, and especially when I was going through really hard times in that career, I always thought the grass would be greener, but it just has different challenges, and it always comes back to that. You've just always got to keep focusing on doing the best that you can and be the best that you can be, and enjoying everything along the way, or otherwise you'll just get caught up in it all. And I am glad that swimming taught me that quite a young age.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And Jade, you mentioned there through some of the tough times in your career, was there a particular dark period in your career where your commitment really wavered and you couldn't see a way forwards, and you considered, leaving the sport?
A little more often than not, I think.
A little more often than not.
Yeah, swimming, it's so hard. You really are very isolated. It's a very individual sport, and it's because you're in water. You don't have the opportunity to. It's not like athletics and things where you run and you can chat or you stop, and swimming. Even when you stop, you're so just puffed from, and you've got water splashing around. The last thing you feel like doing is trying to talk to anybody. So you're in your head for most of the day. You're in the pool for almost 6 hours a day, so you're all in your head going over things. And if you're having a time where you're not performing how you would like to, it's very easy for that negativity to take over.
Yep.
And I think recently a lot of swimmers have come out and spoken about this, and it does happen a lot, and it is really hard. And the pressure that you put on yourself to be performing every day,
yep,
it can be really crippling sometimes. And I know it did get the best of me for most of my career. But
when you say it did, you mean the isolation, or
I guess just the negativity and beating myself up for not being as good as I wanted to be.
Yep.
When really, I was showing up to training and I was doing my best that I could every day, but the times just weren't reflecting it, and that's not really a good indicator of where you're at in terms physically. If it's a really big week, you've done a lot of kilometres, or whatever, it's I don't know, it's just being so harsh on yourself all the time and not really talking to people about that.
As in talking to people in your circle, you mean? Or
yeah, I guess being an athlete, you feel like you should be this invincible, tough person. I mean, I remember Dennis always being like, you got to be tough, you got to push through it, rah, rah, rah. So you sort of take that aspect on into every form of your life. And so you don't want to talk about, not feeling great in training or not feeling so great about certain things. And it can snowball quite quickly when you're just in your head so much going over the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's some well-profiled, publicised cases of swimmers coming out, talking about depression and depressive illness and some of the, the mental challenges that go with it. And I think for people that haven't, I never spent, full time in a pool. I mean, as a triathlete, I was at most in the water, 4 or 5 times a week. But for those that aren't aware, what was your schedule like? You were in the pool 10 sessions a week, yeah? Yeah,
so in the pool, usually 9 to 10 sessions a week, and they'd usually go for 2.5 to 3 hours and clocking anywhere between 6 to 9K.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. It's a lot of time spent in the water. And then on top of that, also running and going to the gym, just resting because your body is so sore. And because you're on such a strict diet as well, every aspect of your life very quickly becomes about swimming, and your friends fall away. Not just because you can't really have friends that aren't athletes.
Yeah.
You can't go to certain things. I think 2011, 2012, when I was prepping for the Olympics, that was when most of my friends from school were turning 21, and I couldn't go to any of their 21sts because I was just so exhausted. And fortunately, I have a good group of friends that they understood. They were happy for me to. They knew that I had other priorities going on.
Yeah.
But it's just
sacrifice.
Yeah, there's big sacrifices involved.
Yeah, that's fascinating you say that. And I mean, they would have been cheering wildly there for your return, I imagine. But yeah, still, I mean, that's something you look back on now in your mid-20s or thereabouts, and you look back and you realise that that was a sacrifice, and you don't get that time back. On a completely different note, I look back. I'm 35 now, and I look back from my years of 25 finishing uni to 30, and it was starting a business and living in that world like a bubble for 5 or 6 years, not putting my head up to look left or right, and all of a sudden you go, wow, there goes 5 years. So so Jade, there's very real cost, isn't there, with the paths we choose. And Jade, before we move off your training, can you recall your favourite and your worst training session? What was your favourite training session, the one you look forwards to the most on a regular basis?
I remember it was a tough one, but I always did quite well in it, and it was called Broken 400s. And so we would do 12 100s every third at essentially max. It was supposed to be 400 pace, but you just go all out. And then you'd go 8 100s. So you'd swim down after you'd done the 12, and then you go 8 100s every second at that same pace as the 12.
Yep.
And then you'd swim off, and then you'd have 4 100s at max effort. And I always found, I don't know, it was really tough set, but I did really enjoy it just because I liked the way you gradually got to that really tough bit at the end. And the worst one, I guess anything really long distance, like 10 400s on some ridiculous cycle, or 20 200s, or anything that was just on a cycle that was not really, you didn't really get to swim fast.
Okay, because you're a 200-metre swimmer,
yeah,
and a 100 swimmer, but your greatest success is in the 200. So you didn't enjoy the endurance sets. Out of interest, I'm going to have a guess here, Jade. Just a guessing game. Your PB for 200. Yeah. I'm going to come in at a guess. This would be some testing the memory here. 157.5.
Oh, that's pretty close. I think it was 157.2.
Oh, geez, that's all right. It's funny, those numbers. I haven't thought of them probably since we last spoke of them, but those numbers will be rattling around in my head. So, so that's cool. So that was your best and worst session. Jade, looking out of the pool now with your goggles off, and I must say, you seem to be someone that's really made the transition well, Jade, from, your identity for that season of your life being in your sport, Jade, the professional, Australian representative swimmer, to seeming remarkably well adjusted now in your new business career. Has it been that easy? I mean, or was it quite tough? Because obviously, we see the publicised cases, and we see, different things of, high-profile athletes that really struggle on that journey. Did you find it was a struggle, or you've kind of just gone with the flow?
No, I definitely. It's ebbed and flowed. I when I first finished up, there was about 3 months there that I absolutely loved the freedom, getting to go and do anything I wanted at 4 o'clock in the afternoon had never been available to me ever. Getting to go for drinks on Friday night, not having to worry about training or anything like that. And then I guess quite quickly after that, I started missing the routine and the familiarity, I guess, of what swimming brought me. But I didn't want to go back to swimming, so I was pretty conflicted. And then the loss of identity and all of that, I didn't know what direction my life was taking. I didn't know where to even start, because all I'd ever known was
goggles and chlorine.
Yeah, was being an athlete, and that's all I knew I was good at. And all of a sudden I'm at uni and trying to be a student, and all my friends had finished uni and started their careers, or moved on to something else, moved overseas or whatnot. So I didn't really have anyone close to me that was going through the same thing. So I found it quite hard. But I reached out to other swimmers that had recently retired, and they just spoke of the same thing. Like, it is really hard when you realise that you're not a swimmer anymore and you don't have that identity, and it's all you've been for so long. And but I guess as soon as I started working casually and got really involved in my studies and discovered that I do enjoy being academic and studious and studying. Yep. So I really enjoyed my business degree. And then when I got this grad job as a junior business consultant, I just had no idea what it was about. Consulting is very vague. You never know what you're going to be doing. So I've only been doing it a year, and I've worked in 4 different organisations across 4 different industries on 4 different types of work. So my life's all about change and constant change now, whereas before it was all about routine and familiarity and not deviating at all from that routine. So that's where I've sort of just learned to let go and relax a little bit and not get so worried about things going pear-shaped or whatnot, because
so much is out of your control.
Yeah, I literally don't know what's around the corner anymore. So
Your clients must get a kick out of knowing that you're an Olympic medalist.
Yeah, it's always.
Or do you keep that quiet?
I usually keep it quiet, but then people.
Someone tells.
Yeah, someone always brings it up.
Do you know that Jade won an Olympic medal?
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
Yeah,
I go bright red. But,
Jade, that's great.
People are always so inquisitive about the Olympics and what it's all like. So I don't.
Well, I think it's part of the Australian psyche, whether it's everyone recognises it for what it is. So really cool, Jade. If Jade Neilsen today could speak to Jade Neilsen, that nervous, swimmer, what would be one bit of advice that the Jade Neilsen of today would give that Jade Neilsen?
Yeah, I guess to just relax and enjoy it. I was just swimming. It's not. I think I got so caught up in what I was doing was so extremely important, and it was. But at the same time, I think I lost the fun of it for quite a while, and it was just sort of like just relax and go with the flow and enjoy it and immerse myself in that experience a bit better. That mindfulness stuff that gets thrown around a lot, I think now is something I could have used back then. Yeah, okay. And what one bit of advice would you give to physical performers, people that are just trying to get the best out of their physical performance, not just professional athletes, but the weekend warriors and the passionate runner? And what would be one bit of advice you'd give to them to help them achieve their physical best? I guess it's incremental. Just always focus on doing something better than what you did yesterday. Don't beat yourself up if it wasn't your best. I'm sure there's always something that you've done well. I think it's human nature to focus a bit too much on the negatives. So always look for that silver lining and the positivity, and draw as much as you can from that, because it's what gets you through at the end of the day. And if you incrementally do good things constantly and focus on that, then that's what adds up to a great result. It's a big win. I like it. And Jade, what's on the Jade Neilsen bucket list, both personally and also career-wise? Career-wise, I think I'd like to study a master's either in business or psychology. So more study. Yeah. And then personally, I'd love to travel. I'm not going to get to Rio this year. I haven't saved up enough money yet, but I really want to go to Tokyo and check that out. I reckon that'd be phenomenal. So that's on the list too. So Tokyo 2020. Yeah. And more study before then, Jade, or study comes later for you? Well, I'm just started my my undergraduate in psychology. Oh, wow. So I have to get that done before I can do any postgraduate stuff. So I think it'll be a constant studying, but that's okay. Well, incremental, Jade. Yeah. Incremental. Focus on the incremental. Yeah. So small steps. Small steps add up to the big wins. I like what you said. There'll be some good tweetables out of that, Jade. Jade Neilsen, well done. And as I said through the show there, the interview, you are always going to be one of the many patients over the years, but someone that holds a special place in my life and in my heart for, the journey you went on. And, so thanks for coming and sharing with the listeners on the Physical Performance Show, Jade. And I know so many people will have found that fascinating, a bit of a look behind the curtain of what it takes to get to an Olympic Games and the Olympic Games themselves. So, Jade, thank you. We wish you all the best for the business career ahead and the extra study, and may see you in Tokyo 2020. Yes, thank you, Brad. I really appreciate it.
So, there you have it. I trust you enjoyed this episode of the Physical Performance Show with Jade Neilsen. I'd love it if you could jump over to iTunes and leave a review. Reviews help enormously in making the show more visible and able to be enjoyed by more people pursuing their physical best performance. If you've left a review already, a massive thank you. If you're yet to leave one, please jump over to iTunes and leave one. That'd be excellent. If you have any questions or comments regarding today's show or guest, Jade Neilsen, please shoot them over to my Twitter account. You'll find me at Brad_beer. Coming up in next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, you're in for a real treat. I sit down with 5 times Coolangatta Gold winner Kane Eckstein. He's also the former Guinness World Record for the most number of pull-ups, having completed an extraordinary 4,182 to set the world record just several years ago. Now, Kane's gearing up to take that record and claim it back to a whole new level. So if you want to hear about an incredible story of performance, make sure you tune in for the next episode of the Physical Performance Show. Until next time, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.